My name is Amara, and this is my story. I live in a small town where everyone knows my smile, but no one sees the pain behind it. Every night, when the lights go out, my stepfather comes into my room. He tells me it's our little game, but it hurts in ways I can't explain. My name is Amara, and I'm 12 years old. I live in a small town called Nkwo, where the roads are paved with red earth, and the air is thick with the scent of roasted corn and grilled fish. Nkwo is a bustling place, with vendors shouting out their wares, children playing soccer in the streets, and the sound of music spilling from the bars in the evening. My mother, Mom Ngozi, is a nurse at the local hospital. She works long hours, often coming home late at night, her uniform stained with the evidence of the day's work. My stepfather, Uncle Obinna, is a well-known businessman in town. He owns a chain of shops that sell everything from groceries to electronics, and everyone respects him for his wealth and influence. But there's something no one knows about Uncle Obinna, something I'm too afraid to tell. It started a year ago, not long after Mama married him. I remember the day vividly. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the town. Mama was happy, her smile brighter than I had ever seen it. She said Uncle Obinna was a good man, someone who would take care of us and give me the father I never had. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that our lives would be better with him around. But that night, everything changed. I was lying in bed, the sounds of the town drifting through the open window, the honking of cars, the distant laughter of people in the streets. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard the door to my room creak open. I thought it was Mama, coming to check on me like she always did. But when I turned over, I saw Uncle Obinna standing there, his figure silhouetted against the dim light from the hallway. At first, I didn't think much of it. He walked over and sat on the edge of my bed, his expression calm, almost caring. He told me I was his special girl, that he loved me in a way Mama couldn't understand. His words were soft, but there was something in his eyes that made my skin crawl. That night, he touched me in a way that no one ever had before. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew it wasn't right. I wanted to scream, to push him away, but my voice was trapped in my throat, and my body refused to move. After he left, I lay there in the dark, too shocked to cry, too scared to sleep. I kept telling myself it was just a bad dream, that it would never happen again. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a dream. It was real, and I was trapped in it. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I went to school, played with my friends, and even helped Mama with the chores when I got home. But inside, I felt different. I felt dirty, like there was something wrong with me. I wanted to tell Mama, but how could I? She was so happy with Uncle Obinna, so convinced he was the perfect husband. I couldn't ruin that for her. So I stayed quiet. But it didn't stop. Night after night, Uncle Obinna would come into my room, his touch becoming more invasive, his whispers more terrifying. I began to dread the sunset, knowing that the darkness would bring with it another visit from him. The sound of his footsteps in the hallway became the thing I feared most in the world. During the day, I tried to lose myself in school. I was a good student, one of the best in my class, and I loved reading books about faraway places where girls like me didn't have to worry about the things I did. But even in the safety of the classroom, I couldn't escape the nightmares that haunted me. My friends noticed the change in me. They asked why I wasn't as talkative, why I seemed so tired all the time. I shrugged off their questions, forcing a smile and telling them I was just tired from studying. I didn't want them to know the truth. I didn't want anyone to know. One day, Mama asked me why I was spending so much time in my room. I told her I was just doing my homework, but I could see the concern in her eyes. She reached out to touch my forehead, checking for a fever. I pulled away, afraid that even her gentle touch might unravel the secret I was desperately trying to keep. Mama sighed, her expression softening. "You can always talk to me, Amara. You know that, right?" I nodded, but the words felt hollow. I wanted to talk to her, to tell her everything, but the fear was too strong. What if she didn't believe me? What if Uncle Obinna found out? The consequences were too terrifying to imagine. As the weeks passed, I began to feel like I was losing myself. The bright, confident girl I used to be was slipping away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. I became quiet, withdrawn, the light in my eyes dimming more with each passing day. But then, something unexpected happened. It was a Saturday, and Mama had taken me to the market to buy some food. The market was crowded, filled with the sounds of haggling and the smell of fresh produce. As we walked through the stalls, I noticed an old woman sitting by herself, selling small trinkets and charms. There was something about her that caught my attention, something that made me stop in my tracks. "Amara, what is it?" Mama asked, noticing my hesitation. I didn't know how to explain it, but I felt drawn to the old woman. I walked over to her stall, my heart pounding in my chest. She looked up at me with kind eyes, her face lined with age and wisdom. "You have a heavy heart, child," she said, her voice soft and soothing. "I can see it in your eyes." I stared at her, my mouth suddenly dry. How did she know? How could she see what I had been trying so hard to hide? She reached out and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Sometimes, we need a little help to carry our burdens. Here," she said, handing me a small, intricately woven bracelet. "This will protect you, give you strength when you need it most." I took the bracelet, feeling its rough texture against my skin. There was something comforting about it, something that made me feel a little less alone. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice barely audible. She smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. "Remember, child, you are stronger than you think." That night, as I lay in bed, I clutched the bracelet tightly in my hand. When I heard Uncle Obinna's footsteps in the hallway, I felt a surge of fear, but also a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could find the strength to fight back. But the visits didn't stop. Each night, Uncle Obinna continued to come into my room, his touch growing more aggressive, his whispers more insistent. The bracelet helped, but it wasn't enough. The darkness was too deep, too suffocating. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. The fear was still too strong, too overwhelming. I wanted to tell Mama, but every time I tried, the words got stuck in my throat. Then one night, something snapped inside me. After Uncle Obinna left my room, I lay there in the dark, tears streaming down my face. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay when it wasn't. I had to tell someone. I had to tell Mama. I slipped out of bed and quietly made my way to her room. My heart was pounding, fear and uncertainty battling within me. What if she didn't believe me? What if things got worse? But I couldn't stay silent any longer. Standing outside Mama's door, I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. I took a deep breath, trying to gather the courage I needed. The old woman's words echoed in my mind, "You are stronger than you think." I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Mama was fast asleep, her breathing steady and calm. I stood by her bedside, my heart racing. I had never felt so scared in my life. "Mama," I whispered, my voice trembling. She stirred, slowly opening her eyes. "Amara? What's wrong?" Tears filled my eyes as I looked at her, my words caught in my throat. I didn't know how to say it, how to tell her the truth. But I knew I had to try. "Mama," I said, my voice barely audible, "I need to tell you something." And with that, the floodgates opened. I told her everything, the nights, the whispers, the fear that had consumed me for so long. I couldn't stop the words from spilling out, each one more painful than the last. Mama sat up, her eyes wide with shock and horror. I could see the pain in her face, the disbelief. She reached out and pulled me into her arms. If you enjoyed this part of the story, comment part 2. Leave a like, a comment from the country you are watching from, and hit subscribe button. It's free.